And lastly, it's about compliance audit process. The settlement process. So by the end of the day, I'm not saying for every vendor, but for most vendor, license compliance audit is a revenue generation exercise. Okay, so how do you negotiate with a vendor if there are genuine non-compliance identified? So a couple of things to look out for. It's always going to be good to have mitigating circumstances, especially where the non-compliance is not intentional. So yes, we may have accidentally turned this on, forgot to delete those users, accidentally imaged it to 100,000 devices, but nobody uses. So identifying those mitigating circumstances and then actually finding proof that to support that will be a good approach. But in the meantime, also depends on the publisher. You want to also retain a degree of publisher goodwill. Right? Don't just go shut your door and say we're going to sue you or let's go legal as your first response. You know, always trying to retain a degree of goodwill, especially if the vendor is supportive, to see whether there are more reasonable commercial approach can be agreed. Some of those vendors that we're going to be talking about today prefers to settle most of the problems commercially. Some of them will be prefer to settle the problems legally. So it really is down to the vendor, but for some of them, vendor goodwill is a very good thing to maintain. And then I think what we have put together here is a bit of a matrix. Try to think about it from a vendor's compliance team point of view, right? These are the things that they want to balance when they're negotiating with you. So they have to decide whether they want a lot of immediate revenue, plus whether there's an opportunity for them to convert you into a stronger future revenue stream. So that's what you want to play to your advantage. Understand the dynamic. Obviously, the relationship of today, the time of payment, etc. And all that dynamic is impacted by how strong your mitigating circumstances are, and also how good the publisher goodwill do you manage to maintain. So basically, these are the kind of typical things you want to consider as part of the settlement. In our experience, nobody paid for what the vendor initially asked for all the cases we dealt with. Right? There's always negotiable for all the non-compliance findings. Nobody just paid for the initial bill. It's always negotiable. Whether you can negotiate it down from 10% or to 90%, that's down to the nature of the compliance and also the skills and the relationship you have with the vendor.